Hello and welcome to the Listening Post on Homeland Security Television. I'm Dan Verton. With me tonight is Rear Admiral David Stone, United States Navy retired, and the former Director of the Transportation Security Administration. Admiral Stone, thanks for being here. Admiral, this interview is being taped on the 7th anniversary of 9/11, and I want to get your estimation on how much safer we are today than we were 7 years ago, and your reaction to some who have asserted that we are not necessarily winning the war on terror at this time. Your thoughts on that?
I think on the domestic front, in terms of our Homeland Security effort, we've done a really good job in hardening a number of our facilities and putting in place measures, whether it be along our border or in aviation or in ports, that indeed make us more secure than we were on the day of those horrific attacks of September 11, 2001. However, overseas, I think we've made some strategic blunders. I think rather than staying focused on Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, we went into Iraq and we spent a lot of our treasure, our blood, our soldiers and Marines and military personnel have fought valiantly. We have the best military in the world, but I don't think that is where the war should have been focused. It really should have been focused on Afghanistan. And so I think we've lost the ability to really impact Al-Qaeda to the degree that we should have by being distracted by the war in Iraq. In addition to that, our overseas efforts have been very unilateral in nature, and we haven't really capitalized on our partnerships, which have been in the past the strength of American foreign policy. And that unilateral approach we see come up again and again in the reflection of there's not enough NATO troops supporting us in Afghanistan today. When Georgia was invaded by Russian forces, we saw a lack of NATO coordination to the degree I would have liked to have seen. And so I think we've really suffered from a lack of really effective partnerships led by the U.S. as we have historically been very effective in doing so. In addition, we have not really made any inroads in the use of soft power. And by soft power, I mean we don't really go after the causal factors of terrorism. I think one commentator mentioned it's like we're out there just mowing the lawn. We're killing terrorists, but they grow up behind them because we haven't gone after those causal factors. And I think we really need a redoubling of our efforts in things such as foreign aid, building up our Foreign Service Corps, and really reaching out and identifying what are the causal factors, what are the instabilities that we can help stabilize through our good resources that we have at our disposal here. And I'll just mention in particular the scarcity of resources worldwide, shortages of water, food, energy. When you have those sorts of scarcities, and as a global leader you're not actively involved on a global scale of reaching effective partnerships to combat that, those scarcities lead to despair and terror. And I think what we'll need to be doing in the next administration is really focusing on the scarcity of resources and how that leads to instability and terror if we really want to have the progress overseas at reducing the causal factors that lead to that kind of activity.
You're one of the many supporters, from a national security perspective, of Senator Barack Obama for president. Can you tell me, in your words, what the fundamentals are of Senator Obama's Homeland Security strategy?
Yes, I'm really enthusiastic about the candidacy of Barack Obama for president. I am one of his supporters. And what I really like about Senator Obama's approach to Homeland Security and defense, and you can see it on his website, is he's really looking for contributions from the field, from hometowns, not just folks from Washington, D.C. who have backgrounds in these areas, but he's one of these special leaders that is a listener. And when you're in the room with Senator Obama, you can see he's a very intent listener. He doesn't come in with concrete ideas on this is how we must proceed. He really wants to have a wide array of inputs. And so I'm proud to be one of the many hundreds of supporters of Barack Obama who is proud to provide inputs to him for his consideration. He's got a great team. I think the focus of Senator Obama will be indeed on hometown security, being on the domestic front, a piece that he really wants to build up on. And by that I mean you'll see more monies, I think, during the Obama administration going to state and local entities so that they can have the resources they need in the hometowns across America to be able to build and put in place organizations that not only have resiliency and be able to respond in the event of an attack, but also be able to have the sort of domain awareness, to be able to detect anomalies in their communities when something's not quite right, so that we can have a better opportunity to prevent terror attacks in our hometowns across America. And so this whole focus on hometown USA in terms of Homeland Security, I think, is important. And I think on the international front, his focus on international partnerships and what we would call the tools of soft power. As he's spoken frequently, he won't hesitate to use military force to hunt down and kill terrorists. But he's wise enough to know that that's not the only way that we need to get after the terrorist overseas. You need to go after those causal factors. You need to have a plan in place where you get at the root causes of poverty and despair that lead to terror. It's not just the threat of radicalized Islam that leads to terror.
What do you make of John McCain's continuous assertions that Senator Barack Obama does not have the experience to lead America at this time in its history, while we're at war and while there are unprecedented economic challenges facing all of us?
I think Barack Obama would make a great next president of the United States because of his character and his judgment. I think when you look at his judgments and his ability to, at the very onset when the U.S. was looking at going to war in Iraq, Barack's judgment was spot on that this is not the place for the U.S. to be focused on. And he spoke out loudly about that, and he was right, that in fact Iraq was a place that we went that was not in the strategic value of the United States. We should have remained very focused on Afghanistan and al-Qaeda. So that kind of judgment we need in the next president. I find his character to be extremely high. I wouldn't be supporting an individual to be our next commander-in-chief unless I had the utmost respect for his character as well and his values. And his experience level, when I look at what he did as a U.S. Senator for our veterans and the actions that he's taken since he's been here in our Congress, I think we speak well of an individual that really has both the experience, judgment, and character to be an outstanding President and Commander-in-Chief, and that's why I'm supporting him in this election. We need a Commander-in-Chief that will restore U.S. policy to the moral high ground. We shouldn't lower who we are in order to win against a desperate and deadly enemy. We can maintain the moral high ground and still win. We can have it both ways, and that's what our next Commander-in-Chief, I think, will ensure that we do. And I'm very proud of the messaging I've seen from both candidates on this issue, that we really need to restore ourselves to the moral high ground for which the United States has historically been known.
So you feel one way or another, starting next year, America will be back on that road to regaining its position in the world?
I think it gets to the core of why people like myself are speaking out in this election, is because we realize that we're off course as a country and that we really need to regain our footing here and be that shining light around the globe that represents the moral high ground in everything we win, everything we do. Because we can win at the moral high ground level, we don't need to lower ourselves to a different level of that of our enemy.
Admiral David Stone, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.